All right, Nick, welcome to the Fireside Chat. So,
It's nice to be here.
I've toyed with whether there should be some crackling fire. That's a
Man, that is
horrible
a great
crackling
fire
fire.
sound.
Yeah.
It's more like a. I
Oh
don't know.
man. So
That's a
I
tough one. It's a tough sound to get, beatbox style.
I do want to just for a moment go back to the place that I met you, which was in Guatemala. We were in Guatemala. There was, I don't know, maybe 70, 150. I'm not sure because I know there was one person there and it was you. And, and we were a part of a small team that was training all parts of the, um, I guess like all parts of Guatemala, meaning the Air Force, town, hospitals, and we were training them in kind of a leadership curriculum. And you and I were in a room and we had an entire town board, like the mayor, like we had the entire, I'm missing the words, but the entire leadership of this town, and they were there with us, and we were using a translator, and you were communicating something out of such depth and transparency, and I felt the environment in the room shift. We don't need to talk about how it is that I called out to the room that I can feel your heart and can't you, but tell me about how that person um has transitioned to somebody who is in a completely different role. I mean, the truth of the matter is, like, you know, dopamine and what excites us does not necessarily go away, but we find it in different capacities depending on different seasons of life. So I want to know a little bit more about, like, do you find yourself getting super pumped up for a conference call, or do you find yourself, all parts of who you were, or how did you discover these new parts of who you are?
Well, Josh, that is one of my fondest memories of you. That room speaking to all those leaders, and you're mistaken about one thing though. That was not the first time we met. The first time we met, and we didn't actually meet, but I saw you at the airport in Guatemala, and I was down there, and I was waiting in line for the bus to go to the hotel, and I turn around, and there is this guy decked out in a full suit,
Full custom
look,
suit, right? Yeah.
custom suit, great socks, and wouldn't you know it, he has his foot up on a box, and he got one of the local kids there that was selling shoe shining services, and he's like, "Come here, bud," and he pulls out a crisp $1 or $2 or whatever it was, and that kid was going to town on your shoes.
Yes.
And I remember having two thoughts. One was, you know what, this guy comes to a third world country in a custom suit. What is he thinking? And then my second thought was, this guy has the biggest smile on his face, and he probably just fed a whole family in this country for $2. And I was just like, why do I look so scrubby right now? I think I was in like shorts and tennis shoes, and I couldn't get my New Balance shined. So I remember having both thoughts, but it wasn't till later, till we got a chance to work together, that, man, you're entertaining, but bigger than your humor is your heart, man. You have a heart for people, you care about people, and you always communicate that. So that's why I'm always excited to jump on a call with you, talk to you, because there's always something that you're passionate about. And that is a strength of yours that not everybody has. So when you ask me, like, what are you passionate about? What is exciting to you? Where do you find your fire? And, sometimes that's something I have to think a little bit harder about. What is it that I'm passionate about? And I have to create some meaning or find some meaning in the different work that I do. But every time I talk to you, you shine insight onto wow, I actually am passionate about that. Oh, I didn't realize I was looking at that in that way, because this is something that's natural for you, or it's something that you've cultivated over time. So that's why it's always exciting to kind of have these chats with you, because I honestly learn more about myself after talking to you than when I start the call.
Well, thank you. I mean, and I must say, the shoe shine, that kid hustled me so hardcore. And then his sister came up behind him while he
You got
was,
tag teamed.
this is it though. Like he was persistent, and he like, I forget exactly what he said, but I was like, all right, because he wasn't the first one that asked.
Mm-hmm.
And then his sister came up right over his shoulder and like kind of put her hand out as well. And this kid was, like you said, like snap, snap, snap. Like he was doing it proper. And you're like, how do I not honor this? And I mean,
Yeah.
maybe they pulled the 1-2 on me. I mean, obviously my shoes got shined, but it was a beautiful hustle to experience. And yeah, I mean, that's that, like, what a funny way to kind of begin this friendship. And one of the things that I've appreciated about you over the years is when I'm with you, there is, and I think you kind of said it, but there is always something new that comes to the surface, or always it's like that Spice Girls song, when two become one, except for it's not like that. It's like when two becomes five, or when two becomes three. Like when we come together, there's always this other space of ideas or thinking. And I think it speaks to your capacity of belief. It speaks to your capacity of just the depth of who you are. And this is obviously, there's plenty of interviews with people that I don't have deep relationships with, and we're talking about things that are exciting. But the other thing that I am intrigued by, is, I'm just, I guess, ask you, what is intriguing you right now? Like, what is interesting you, that is, because I know you're somebody that is always pulled forward by something. You think big, you feel big. I know that there is always something that's in your mind, or in your heart, or something that you're marinating on. And I'm not saying like what exactly is that thing per se, but like what's some of the things that you've been feeling lately, or some of the thoughts that have been coming through as you've been in the midst of this grind, especially a season that didn't end too long ago, that was truly taxing all of you, probably physically, mentally.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's two things that are intriguing me right now. One, the picture of your microphone that you use now with the chinchilla on top. I can't get that
It's
visual
not
out of my head.
chinchilla, but it looks so, it was mostly for me. Like I enjoy it.
Oh, well, I'm enjoying it as well. So that's intrigued the heck out of me. The other thing that's intriguing me right now um, is life in general. Right now, the world is kind of turned a little bit upside down. Some people aren't working. Some towns are shut down. And in the last 2 weeks, it's really kind of shifted. What is the most important thing? And I think
Mm,
it always comes back to relationships.
mm.
And so for me, as you know, in our long friendship, I'm one of those people that if I get buried, I'm buried, I fall right off the radar sometimes,
You and me
and then
both.
I zoom right back onto it, and then it's like we kind of go into our seasons of like
Yeah.
insane hustle and grind, and then we get back together, and
And rent a
and
red Ford Mustang and get sunburn.
yes.
Perfect.
And then it's like I wanted like talk to you every hour on the hour, for a month straight to make up for
Yes.
lost time. But just in this season, not just because of the virus, like, oh, you could die or this or that. The main thing for me is just remembering how important relationships are, and
Mm,
being willing to take that time to make that call, or to these days it's all kind of have to do everything virtual, but
yeah.
just making that effort. And so friendship is kind of intriguing to me right now. And how do you fit that in with being married, being, in your career, focusing on stuff, building new relationships, maintaining old ones, which ones aren't serving me anymore, which ones are serving me, but I'm not giving anything to them. Have I ever been a good friend? Like those kind of
Yes.
questions you ask yourself. And it's just like, oh, there's this whole part of life that, doesn't get much attention. My work gets a lot of my attention. And then, I talk to my wife and stuff while I'm at work, and then I come home and then I spend time with my wife, and we're just really enjoying. We've been married since May of 2008, which you were a big part of. And
18.
18. Oh yeah. What did I say? Oh, eight?
Unless I got invited to the 10-year
Yeah, you
after
did.
party.
We're keeping it under wraps. Yeah, no, 2018. And so, that's just been such a great experience building that relationship and just enjoying our
And
life.
it takes these things take time too. And I think
Mhm.
one quick thing I saw earlier today that I took a screenshot of that it spoke to me heavily. It said, "Stop feeling bad for outgrowing people who had the chance to grow with you." And I
Mm.
was like, wow. I mean, that's cold, but at the
Mhm.
same time, and I think one thing that you didn't mention that is always on my mind, especially recently, is also taking time for me and
Mhm.
making sure that I am able to still like who am I becoming?
Mhm.
Um, this idea of arriving on full has been something that's been I guess on my mind for the better part of maybe 3-4 years. And these are all things that are like, I find them very easy to ignore, some of the stuff that you're talking about when you're kind of on that front end, when maybe you don't have as much as you have, and for many years, like, I was behind the 8 ball financially, was trying to build this business, and these things were like easy to almost ignore in some ways because it was like
Mhm.
food on the table or this. But then all of a sudden you step into a season of like, not that you've arrived, but it's like you step into this new season of, okay, how do I build this foundation for what's next? And honestly, that with this shutdown and my travel schedule going from crazy to now zero, I I am loving this thought of what I've been telling myself is, what can I figure out right now that will be my platform for the next 10 years? And not platform in terms of what content and what's my business plan. No, 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 none of that. What's my platform for me? Who am
Mhm.
I? How do I stay best focused? I've been trying to learn more about, and I know tons of people know so much about it, but the Enneagram, I'm
Mhm.
familiar with DISC and Myers-Briggs, but I wanted a fresh insight into me. I've been looking at some software tools like Notion, Monday.com. Like, how do I set up for me? Because lately I feel like I am flying in the air at 30,000 feet. Things are going well. I'm going where I want to go, but I feel like the wings are about to fall off and I got to get out there
Mhm.
and fix it.
Mhm.
And it's like almost this little blessing of time has happened, because now my commute is 19 seconds up the stairs, and the kids are right there, and it's so amazing. And so I'm not trying to guide this anywhere, but it's like there's relationships, there's relationship with yourself. I mean, you've got 2 dogs, they desire your relationship, and
They
you
do.
desire a relationship with them as well.
It's true.
Sometimes you enjoy just hanging out, sometimes you want to go do something, and all of these things, it seems like they're pulling, and it's like, shouldn't this be more simple? Like,
Mhm.
what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong?
Yeah. Well, no, I like where you're guiding it because, to be any significant good relationship with anybody else, you kind of have to be tuned into yourself, right? And that's way easier said than done. And I think that's been definitely a struggle, not necessarily a struggle or not been much of a thought till recently, where, like you said, it's either put food on the table, perform at work, keep your job, perform at work,
Tackle this
reach the
next big
next
thing.
level
Yeah.
so
Turn
you
the
can,
next corner, whatever the frick it
yeah.
is.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I know, not to be short-sighted, we've been around the block a couple times already, but there's always a next
It's almost
hurdle,
like I'm
right?
gonna get there. Like maybe
Yeah.
maybe I'm not gonna get there to the degree that I would want or as quickly as I would want, but I'm like over time you're kind of like, yeah, I'll get like it's not that you lose the hustle, but it's like
hmm
maybe like is it maturity? Is it wisdom? Is it
I don't know. I mean, I think that it is kind of like when you're running up a flight of stairs, right? There's always a flat place where you walk straight for a second, and then you start ascending to the next level. And I think every time we get to another level, we need a second at
hmm,
that level, to kind of look around,
hmm,
reassess, make sure, hey, am I even going up the right stairwell? Am I in the right building? You know,
yeah.
all that stuff. But
Catch your breath.
yeah, catch your breath. Yeah, like reset before you go up the next one. Like, what is the value? Is this am I walking? Well, sometimes when we think about getting to another level, or we think about getting to the top, like
Or staying alive.
we imagine, yeah, like putting food on the table, which we've all been there, right? And that's just, it's so stressful. Like writing this check, so it floats long enough so that you can use this debit card, but then you pull this cash out so that you can use cash, so your account gets overdrawn, like you're jumping from thing to thing to thing, and you're running up this card and that, right then you can't really think necessarily about being your best self, I don't think, or really think about
It's a lot
relationships. You're
harder.
just trying
Yeah.
to stay alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe you should, I don't know, I'm not a psychologist, but when you kind of get to that next season, I know for myself, now that I'm settling into where I'm at and what I'm doing, um, I have had to kind of take a step back and say, do I really recognize myself? Who am I? What is it that I want now at this
Hmm.
stage of my life? What is important? I have so much of what I want. Am I experiencing a level of happiness that I feel like I should? If something is making me feel unhappy, why? Like all of those things to say, like, hey, am I in the right spot? Am I operating at the right frequency? Am I putting the time and attention to the things that matter to me?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think maybe a certain amount of people will either be doing work that they love or finding a way to love the work that they do. Not everybody is
Yeah.
going to be, you know, doing what they love. I think, it's either you do what you
And
love
what
or
does
you
that
love what you
even
do.
mean though? Like
Like,
what is
yeah,
like
like 5% of it maybe you love, it,
yeah.
95% you don't. But your life is more than that. So it to me, that you're absolutely right. It's just it is a time, and it is a challenge to kind of self-reflect a little bit and figure out, hey, who is this guy now at this age
Well,
in this career,
and it's not
married?
binary either. It's not like who I am today is who I'll ever be. Although that's
Mhm.
like a lot of conventional thinking is everything up to this point dictates the success that I will have in the future. But
Mhm.
it's like we're living longer and I obviously I talk about well, I've said this to you, but I mean, I think how I survived was this idea of macro patience but micro speed.
Mhm.
And I think like any job, any role, and that's like that find a job you love and you never work a day in your life. It's like that's BS because
Mhm.
when you are connected to something, when you are the gatekeeper of margin and that
Mhm.
means something to you, it's like that requires you to want to work harder and get the result, which means you are taxed at another level. There's parts of you that care that and other things maybe you don't care, and it's easy to get up and walk away when you don't care. It's so hard to get up and walk away when you do.
Mhm.
And it's like when people are like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah," or thinking entrepreneurship is the dream, and it's like, I mean,
Mhm.
it can certainly have some upsides, but I mean, thank God I over the last couple of years have been diversified with consulting and speaking, but like my speaking calendar is just literally wiped clean for the next 3 months. And it's like
Mhm.
there's no way I could have predicted that.
Mhm.
And so it's like, yeah, things are going well and we're going really well. And now we've entered into some new territory. Um, but who's always gonna be there is me.
Mhm.
And it's like that's been a lot of thinking for me lately is the relationships, and my kids are only little once. Uh,
Mhm.
like Brooklyn loves to come down in the morning and watch a Bible show or color some of the coloring apps on the iPad. And sometimes it like frustrates me because it's like we let her come down between 7 and 8, and it's like, I'm flowing one direction, or like I'm like just the music and the environment in my office is just right. But it's like she's probably not going to want to come into my office and hang out with dad every morning for like maybe she does. But it's like,
Well, then that's
I
another
have
problem.
yeah, like this is important. Now obviously the rent getting paid and food on the table is important, and providing a valuable service that makes me dominate in the marketplace is important. All of these things are important. And so now it's
Yeah,
like
it's all important.
it's all important, which just requires like a new level of like figuring it out and thinking through it, and maybe those deeper relationships at that point become absolutely critical.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. It's just kind of like reframing your perspective and what is important to you. If you can honestly look at yourself in the mirror and say, my relationship with my daughter and her memories of her childhood and me never being around isn't important. If you can honestly say that, then operate that way, and good for you, and double down on your work. That's great. You can say, I want them to always know that I worked hard, that I set a good example, I provided for them, I provide them a good life, and that's what you think is important. You do you, and do it to the best of your ability. But if there's a part of you that says, gosh, I really hope she has one memory of me, being willing to put all my work aside and spend some time with her, and being able to take that 5-minute break or this or that, or I always walked down and I colored in daddy's room while he was working, like, whatever that is, whatever you want that memory to be, then you get a chance to do that. And I know that's frustrating and that's challenging, but I just think I saw something, I mean, it is on a TV show, but it was basically.
Was it very Cavallari?
No.
Because I was going to say something about very Cavallari, which I love that show, Closet. Hopefully Jenna's not listening because I half pretend not to love it, but I think it's obvious I do. But continue.
Yes, no, Tuesday nights, I always got to get the very Cavallari on. Yeah, because Wednesdays is reserved for the Real Housewives of New Jersey. I'm also in the closet about that one too, but but it was just basically like when, it's not like waiting to your deathbed or whatever, but when you look in your mirror and you think about what's important to you, do you honor that every single day? Like, my family is important to me. Am I finding a way to show them, or recommunicate it? Like, I work a lot of hours, and I also want to spend every hour of life with my wife. So I at least have to say, like, and when I'm in the zone, just like you, I can't, right before our call today, I probably had 45 phone calls. So I'm not always texting, talking, doing all that. But I have to say, like, every time I come home, I was like, man, I was thinking about you all day today. Oh, I thought about this. I wanted to tell you, never got a chance to. Like, just saying, like, this is what I like, because that relationship is important. If I was sitting at home all day and I didn't hear from my wife, I'd think, oh, she's not thinking about me. Oh, she's busy. Oh, this doesn't really matter to her, or to him. So, to me, it's just saying, like, okay, what's important? Not cliche, but I love my wife. I want at the end of, my life for her to be like, man, that was the right choice. Man, that was a good choice. Boom, dude, that's my guy, and he loved me. So I got to find a way to say that every day, and putting food on the table at some point isn't enough, right? At least in my book.
Right. And that is part of the hard part, is in some ways the amount of money that it takes to provide a decent lifestyle. Like, not even above average. And what is above average? Even, I mean, it's all different, but it's like, if you want to go, I felt like we went on a relatively straightforward, relatively simple vacation. And family of our size, like, it cost $5,000.
Exactly.
And that was like, we did not do a ton of different stuff. Like, we cooked most of our meals. So it's like, it's crazy. But at some level that cannot be the only thing, but at sometimes there's a demand, and it's not like, oh, well, I want to dial it back 30% at work. Can I dial back 30% of my salary? It doesn't work like that. And So we've
Yep.
got to, I think like maybe that's the theme of this call, at least for me, is, you truly have to find your fit. You have to
Hmm.
find, because it's not black and white. There's not one strategy. You've gone from something that was interacting with people in such a degree and level and fulfilled you for a season of life, and now you've got this little bit more ebb and flow of consistency, while the personal side of you is getting to really settle into life and develop a whole new set of routines and possibilities, and new dreams are coming to the surface that previously weren't even thoughts. And
Hmm.
I think that's so cool to hear, on this wavelength of
Yeah.
how you're processing through.
Well, and probably same for you, and I'm sure your process may be similar or even absolutely different, as being willing to, it's not the end of the world to start over in any venue, right? Whether it's your work, which it's not technically starting over, but it's starting something new, starting from the bottom. It's frustrating. In your relationship, something isn't going well or you don't like it. Just being willing to say, can we start over in this area? Can we start a new track record? Can we build, a new way, a new normal in this area? I'm sure you've had to do that multiple times. One, from being single to being married, to having one kid, to having two kids, to having three kids. you know um, your normal changes with that, and your workload has only increased because you become more successful and you become more diversified. So, you know how you look at that is, I'm sure, even more insightful than anything that I've said, because you have multiple fronts that you're evolving on, as a dad, as a father,
Yeah.
as a speaker, as a writer, as a content creator, as a consultant. And it's, you know to me, you just got gold in there,
Yeah.
from your experience.
And I think that's like, I forget, I want to pull it out, and I forget exactly how you said it. Um, but it was like, you can take the experience of something and convert it to the other present situation. And when you said
Mhm.
that, I immediately was like, how many people are incredible parents, maybe are struggling for performance at work, and it's like, well, you know how to talk your kid down from the ledge when they're about to have a
Mhm.
meltdown.
Right.
You know the strategies, you know the questions to ask you. And it's like, if you could almost trust yourself enough that in this other situation you are actually equipped. And so it is the beautiful part of being a human at work, as we look forward to the next 10, 15, 20 years, is I think that humanness is going to matter more than we are currently aware of. And our
Mhm.
human experience as a whole will actually be one of the keys to truly driving our performance.
Yeah. And like you said, we live for a long time, barring anything crazy
Yeah.
happening. We live for a long time. So, it's easy to get kind of wrapped up in the right now. But taking the time for the things that are important. And, it's cliche, but hey, how much is this going to matter in the next 5 years?
Right. Yeah.
Is missing this hour with, my wife going to change our marriage? Or is this hour going to work going to change my career? Some days it might be
That's
one,
good.
some days it might be the other, but
Whew.
how much is this going to matter in 10 years?
Wow.
And sometimes putting the pressure on yourself to perform quickly, we are more productive sometimes,
Bro.
so.
Bro. This is so good. I gotta go.
I know you're
We
already late
both,
to your next
yes.
appointment, but I've
Did we say that
appreciated
on
being a
air?
part of your fireside chat.
No, this is so good. Oh man, we've always joked we should just record our conversations, and we're gonna have you back. I'm just making this up, but we're gonna just do fireside chats. It's my podcast. It's the Meaningful Work podcast, and we're gonna talk about whatever we want to talk about more in the future. My friends,
I would love to be back, and I
this
hope that
is
we both
good.
can purvey some tequila next time while we have
Wild.
a fireside chat.
Yes.
We can do that. Talk about the
Some
notes.
ultra añejo
Ooh, ultra
tequila.
añejo or Casamigos,
Mm.
whatever your flavor.
Well, at least as long as it's not Jose Cuervo, then
We're going to be doing
I
all
mean, I'm
right.
okay with Jose Cuervo. I just prefer to not drink that straight and neat.
I just say I'm not okay with it anymore. You know, when you work really hard and you make
You
a
got-
lot of sacrifices in your life, you owe it to yourself to step up
at
and
least
buy off
Don Julio,
the
right?
next shelf up. Yes,
Or
at least
Trace
Don.
Amigos or something like
Yes.
you've got to find at least some middle ground that's not
Yes.
the thing that you're reaching to because it's the cheapest. Like
Yes.
I've realized sometimes when you ask a server like, oh, what do you like there? I was speaking at my college a few weeks ago, and I was talking to some of the kids, and you could tell when they were talking about food, they were still so concerned about the quantity of something.
Right.
And I was like,
Yeah.
it has been a lot of years and a couple of years
Yes.
that I'm like, well, if I want something else, I'll order, like, I want what tastes the best. And if I can get it again, or I can get something else, or in 2 hours I can,
Yes.
I don't,
Tapas.
yeah, like,
Not 100 chicken wings.
yeah, like, I don't care how big the burrito is. Is the burrito
Yes.
delicious? That's what I'm worried about.
Yes.
I don't care that it's a good value. Anyways.
Yes. Yes.
Well, Nick,
that could be the topic of our next fireside chat.
Value versus flavor.
Hello.
All right, my friend, so good to spend this time with you, and I appreciate you opening up and talking through, and I'm excited for this time to be shared. And honestly, you said some really good stuff that I'm going to take some notes on. And as I'm in this free, I call it like this opportunity to just take a free shot at however I want to live life again. So good. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, Josh.